Yeah, I think we're gonna be live in a couple seconds. Let's just wait for people to join in.
Okay.
Gonna wait 3 or 4 minutes, but people should be getting a notification pretty soon. So no intros today, no fancy intros. Do you want to sing the intro? No?
No, I'm okay.
Not for today. All right. When did you get from school, by the way?
When did I what?
I get back from work.
I got back a little bit after 3 o'clock.
Alrighties, alrighties. As soon as people start joining, can somebody please give me a thumbs up if the audio... Dimitri's here. Say hi to Dimitri.
Hi, Dimitri. Hi.
That's my audio engineer, by the way.
Oh, cool. Hi.
Yeah, he does the audio for the videos, but it's probably like 2 a.m. right where he is. But either way, I'm just curious. 13 people. Can anyone give me a thumbs up if the audio quality? Say something, Mike.
Your audio sounds great to me. I don't know about to them.
We're being a little rusty here, but either way. So, hi everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to Mike. A happy 2021.
We need a new year, buddy.
Yeah.
We need a new year.
Yeah. Right about time. Hopefully, New Year is a little bit less eventful in all the stuff outside of concerts and performances and all the
Yeah.
musician activities.
I don't ever want to remember 2020 ever again.
Nope, erased. But yeah, either way, so hope everyone's doing fine. We haven't done one of these streams for a little while, so just figured out it'd be pretty cool to catch up on all of our activities, answer some questions, since I haven't had a chance to do many questions and answers for a little while. But basically, Mike, how was your? Let's quickly review 2020. How was your holidays? Anything interesting? Anything worth knowing? You're about to unleash.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because, after our last stream, as soon as our last live stream was finished, like a bear, I just went into hibernation. I ate a bunch of chocolates and I ate a bunch of sweets and I fattened up and I just went to bed for a few months and I was certain. I was like, if I hibernate like a bear for 3 months, when I wake up, I'm certain everything will be back to normal. Everything will be amazing. Everything would be opened up and we would all be great. And I was horribly wrong. I was so wrong. I should have stayed in my hibernated state for maybe a few more months.
It's interesting. By the way, Ellen is joining. David is joining.
Oh, hi, Ellen. Hi, Dave. Long time no see, Ellen. Hope everything's going good for you.
Glad to see our regular people joining to the stream. So again, we're gonna wait a couple more minutes, but for people who have questions, start pumping them in the chat. We're gonna try and answer as many as possible. We're gonna do dining with Ding. So we haven't had these streams for a little while, and mainly it was to do with scheduling and being busy. I was trying to ramp up the recording process, as well as the academic year started for you, Mike, and sorting out everything through digital platform. As it turns out, not so simple. That's not exactly what you signed up for.
I saw you. Well, I didn't see you, but whenever you put out like the list of all of the things that you're doing, all of the new material and the content that you're releasing, and it's like, this week by this time we need this, and then it needs to be this hour of this because this is happening. And it was just one thing after the other. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then it was like towards the end of October that I sort of like fell away from you. And I just haven't been able to get back on track with the different projects and things that you have been getting into until right now. I mean, of some of like the personal things that's going on in my life with my family and numerous members of my family. So
Are you going to
it's
elaborate
just
on that, or because I was going to ask, but I don't know whether I should be asking that.
yeah, no. I mean, yeah, it's just all of a sudden over the holidays like this, especially this. I don't. I always like to stay positive. I don't like to be like a person that's like down. But man, it was tough. It was just a shame that I couldn't take part in some of the projects you were getting into because of some family concerns and things that I had to worry about with that and to help some of my family members with. I had one family member that is will be having surgery soon. Things we weren't sure how things were going to work out with that, but things are looking promising with that. So I'm actually happy, even though it was a disappointing diagnosis. I'm feeling okay about that family member. And then for Christmas time, but before Christmas time, it's like my entire family, brothers, mother, they're all getting sick
You're the only one who's not.
I'm the I'm the only one that's not. They all wanted to get together for Christmas time, and I wanted to go and get together with them as well for Christmas time. But I asked my wife. I was like, hey, let's get out of town here. Let's go and hang out with the rest of the family. And she said, no, that's not the responsible thing to do. We shouldn't be doing that right now. We should just stay here together and all that. And sure enough, she was right, because at Christmas, on Christmas Eve, they're all just like all one by one. It was like one day after the other. The next family member that was there has gotten sick, and then the next day, the next family member has gotten sick. And all of that, it was just like, oh my goodness. I'm sure it's very similar for a lot of people that are out there. And just the thing in the question that was in the back of my mind, it's like, how could this year get any worse? And it's just like, even as it started to draw to the end of the year, it's like, yeah, obviously a new year isn't going to like make things any better, but it's just like, okay, I'll get rid of the old and here comes the new. And you have that outlook with you. But as the year was ending, I was like, there's no way this could get worse. It's like uncle, relative needs surgery. That's horrible. And then my best friend gets sick with the virus, and then it's like, how much worse can this get? And then soon after that, it's like a whole family is sick, and it's just like, oh my goodness, and I can't do anything for them or help them or anything like that. It's just it's just too much. It's just too much.
It's time to finish 2020. Time to wrap this up. But
get out of here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's weird because I don't know whether people know, but I know your family members very well. Actually, your mom, and we always, when there's like holidays, either they invite us or we talk a little bit, and as well, we communicated on New Year's, and I was like, no way, they're sick, and the brothers are sick, which is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it's looking like they're going to bounce back okay. My one brother is a little bit more severe than some of my other family members, but keeping the fingers crossed with hoping that they recover.
Yeah, because Barute's mom and grandmother sick as well, and well, not as bad as not like terribly bad, but some symptoms as well. So yeah, it's interesting. How about the recording sessions? A lot of people don't know. We did some digital stuff with River City, and yeah, boy, that was that interesting as well. So first of all, great experience. Nice seeing everyone, and it's good that everyone they really watched a lot of protocols and stuff in regards to how to take all the precautions and etc. But what was your experience playing with those cover bells and having masks every second? You're not touching mouthpiece with your lips.
I mean, in the whole idea of the thing, I had a complete hoot with it all. I had I had such a good time with the whole idea of it. I was so pumped to be able to play and put on some more performances and things like that. um, Mentally, I was in love with it. Physically, to get back to playing again after all that time, and we were doing like what whenever we were doing those recording sessions, they were what, like 6 hours or more. I can't even remember, 6 or 7 hours. It feels like 12 hours of, and it was just, man, playing and playing and playing and playing, and then there's like a lunch break right in the
Mm.
middle of it. But it was just, it, it was a killer.
And
It, it,
it's weird as well because the logistics is very hard. You're limited with rehearsal space, and you have to bring people to video record, audio record. So it's very illogical for them to do these 60, because otherwise it would not be possible. You have to do it in one day because people need to travel, and you cannot book theaters and etc. But logistics makes it. Normally we play under a lot of pressure just because we play a lot. And most of our musicians, all of them, I would say, are great with dealing with that. That's our job. Is we don't necessarily have too much time rehearsing. Normally we just new program, new pieces, perform, perform, perform. As I'm driving to the Palace Theater, and I know that it's not a live recording, butterflies, here we go. It's interesting. I don't mind it, but I just find it awkward when you catch yourself in these moments where it's more or less like a recording, like it's like a rehearsal. We're recording, yes, it was an interesting experience, and playing with cover bells is not exactly the easiest thing, especially in regards to intonation, etc. I'm just curious to how many people have tried the cover bells and what their experience. If you have any experience with cover bells, put down what cover bell, what instrument, and your experience in the chat. Let us know. I'd be curious to hear if anyone else who's joining and watching this live have any experience with any cover bells and etc.
the ones that I used with my students, I was surprised with how easy it was to operate with them. Before this whole idea even came out, I was like, how on earth are you going to put a cover over your instrument and have it be any good whatsoever with you, sound quality or intonation or any of those types of things? And I was really surprised at how little of a change it made. Even too with playing on them myself. I had just an opportunity to play trombone for the gala performance that we did back months ago, and also for these recent recordings that we did like last month or a couple months back. I just played on trombone, but I was really, the bell cover might have actually made me better. I'm going to come out and say it. The bell cover might have actually made me sound better. I couldn't use. I mean, obviously with certain instruments you couldn't use mutes. Like I brought all of my mutes with me. It's just to show like how I wasn't thinking about this. Like I brought all of my mutes and my straight mutes and my cup mute and my plunger and all of that stuff, and I brought it to there, and even my trombone stand I brought. And so I'm going and I'm setting up, and then the bell cover is there and I have it on, and I'm like, how am I going to be able to use all my mutes? I can't use any of them. And it's like, how am I going to put my trombone onto my trombone stand? It's not going to be able to go on. So you have little issues like that. But the only concern that I had with the bell covers that we had for my students whenever the students were in school was the French horn players. And it's like the covers that we received, it didn't have an opening for the French horn player to put their hand inside of the bell, and it was just the dumbest thing in the world.
Did you see
And
what
it's like,
Jason and Ken used for their horns?
I think, did it have like an opening
Yes.
that was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
placed in there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. For ours, they didn't have it on the thing, and so I didn't have any French horn players, but the other teacher did, and the other teacher just left them open like that and just said, you know.
Yeah,
do your best.
it's interesting because the less effect you have, technically the thinner. Well, not technically, it's a thinner. If you're not feeling much of an effect, it's usually a pretty thin bell cover, which in reality kind of defeats the purpose of the cover at the same time. So I mixed opinions as well as you. I don't know, like it was weird playing one. Like it does turn a little bit flat. I'm seeing some people comment on this. Let's read for that. Let's see what experiences do other people have. Ellen is
share something, because
Ellen is asking.
I can see it, but
Ellen is asking what scales book do you recommend? Ellen, use my scale book. There's a reason I compiled everything, because I couldn't find a proper scale book. It's interesting because you would think something as basic as scales would be because you would find like a sheet of major scales, minor scales, like all over a scattered PDF on the Google, but when you search it. But the problem that I used to always have, they never had, I wasn't aware, at least for brass players, of a well-compiled book where you would get 1 octave scales, 2 octave scales, thirds, fourths, arpeggios, everything in one place, to the point where it's organized. And basically what you'll be experiencing not only through school, but also through higher education, not only through high school, middle school, but also higher education institutions in their technical exams, if they do have it. So there's the book that I designed. It's purposely designed for those purposes. It's not like I'm inventing scales. It's not necessarily. It's not my invention, but it's just I found that from my experience nobody compiled it properly. So if send me an email if you haven't downloaded. Oh, I see you have downloaded the book, but that's the book I recommend. A little biased, but at the same time the reason why I wrote it is because I could not find. Are you aware of any scale books that particularly not feature scales, but particularly like compile all the?
Yeah, no, I mean, they only go so far with certain ones. Like you'll get a certain handful of, you'll get like pretty much all of the major scales in there, or some of the major scales in there, and then some of the minor scales. But there's not a lot of complete things that I have come across myself, and especially not a lot of exercises that give you opportunity to practice things within those different scales that you're trying to play.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I compiled in the book is all the relative scales, minor, major, whole tone, chromatic scales, 1 octave, 2 octaves, then exercises, not only providing you with exercises, but showing how I make my own exercises using the scales. That's why I always tell people you're better off at learning scales and making personalized exercises. That's what I always do with my students as well, because you can always assign the exercises, but I feel the best way to go about it is everyone's different. There's like a guidelines to where the problems you always see with like throughout different students, but normally they have different set of compilation of pros and cons or strong points and weak points. So I normally assign exercises based on that, but all of them are basically scale patterns. So I would highly recommend you check that book because I'm not aware of any other book that compiles it like that. Okay, can I have your thoughts on Imperial Euphonium and their pedal range, because I can't seem to get Imperial Euphoniums. Is Imperial a brand or is it Besson Imperial or Imperial? Because
I know Besson has like the Sovereigns and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think sure Imperial is an old one. I'm not familiar with that euphonium. If you elaborated, but I've never tried it for fact, so my opinion might not be the most legit. Okay, euphonium bell cover, Keaton Rust. Euphonium bell cover, not for sure what brand. They make the instrument a bit flat. Yeah, same experience. A bit just, and if it's, I've tried a couple of covers, one of them pretty thick, it starts feeling a little muty. It starts feeling like you're putting a practice mute. The one that I used, it makes you a little bit dull and flat. That was kind of my experience as well. I don't know. Do you know what brand we used for our recordings?
It was one company out of the UK. I know that.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know the brand for sure. It's just I understand the need for it. It's just annoying. It's just a little annoying. It's just hard to find the balance, and like
Yeah.
when you're so familiar with how your instrument feels and how it sounds. You know what? For you, it might be a little bit better because you're not mainly doing trombone. So I guess it probably does not bother you as much. I bet if you put it on euphonium and go, that note is a little bit off centered, more
Yeah,
than
I mean, it always goes back to the thing like not that this is my philosophy or anything like that, but it's sort of I sort of take this approach to things like you like love mouthpieces and things,
I
and
love mouthpieces.
you have mouthpieces everywhere,
I
and
only
you
how
have
what?
you have you have you have 12 plastic euphoniums behind you and everything, and all this other stuff. But but I just have a philosophy of whatever equipment that I might have at any given time, I just try to make the best out of whatever I have to deal with. So if I have to play with a bell cover on, then I'm going to try my best to make myself sound as good as I possibly can. Or if I have a student model horn where it might have limitations with one thing or another, I just try to play my best on that, and find ways around issues that might come up. So
Yeah, I see where you're at, but at the same time, when you don't have a chance to really practice and you need to deliver immediately, like trying to figure out is not exactly what you're trying to do. And at the same time, at least for me personally, I nobody taught me how to play secure. I just
what?
I don't like playing secure. I go for it, and it's not necessarily a good idea to. I trust my abilities, and I trust my preparation quite a lot. So normally when I go, I just go for it. For me, it's a conscious choice that I don't play secure. And normally, when you have an additional,
You
uh,
have to adapt, buddy.
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to adapt.
Well, clearly, we had to. But what I'm saying, the whole process, it's a little bit on the edge of a seat, because at the same time you're recording, and you understand that you need to get through a certain amount of program, which is a lot of pieces we went through. And you understand that there's always a second take, but at the same time, you don't want to be a person who's like, "Hey, so just before we move on, did anyone split the note? Please raise your hand." So
Yeah, yeah.
you don't want to be you don't want to be one of those people. It happens, but hey.
I I try to make my mistakes small, not big.
I don't make I either don't make mistakes or
They're
make one
huge.
like me did. Okay. David is saying I bought a cheap one on Amazon with a drawstring. Wasn't a fan. I found that one makes you touch off in regards in tuning. Yeah, tuning. Yeah, tuning is it's just like mute and does the same thing. It's just like lesser version of mute. Joseph, when I march at school, we used bell covers and baritone. All it did was reduce the sound and tone quality slightly, but to a blind ear, no one could tell. My audio engineer is saying that it only affects high frequencies, very high. That's interesting. That's interesting. He would know a little bit more of a scientific
Yeah, sure.
approach to that. So, have a New Year resolution? Do you have one? You
Me?
figured that out? Yeah, yeah.
I'm just glad to be in the new year, man. I I don't even have a resolution. I'm just grateful we're finished with 2020. I'm not normally big into those types of things, and that goes. I mean, yeah, there'll be people. They'll be like, "Well, I want to be more healthy in the new year, or I want to do one thing, or I want to make this a priority," and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I just try to stay consistent with like what I do in the first place, and maybe that plays to the performing and practicing and everything of all of the years of working towards something. I mean, a lot of stuff that I do, it's been things that I've done for years upon years, and just routines with things like that. So I don't often find myself thinking like, do I need to change something, or what do I need to get into differently, like a resolution, or giving things up, or doing things new. My mind doesn't normally think,
You
along those lines.
strike me like a routine person. I'm a very routine person. That's where I thrive. I'm like I need one. I need to have routines. I need to have certain like guidelines throughout my day, because most of the stuff we do, it's nobody's forcing me to practice. I don't need to show up, stamp myself that I showed up 9 a.m. at the practice room. I practice, and it's all you have to be quite independent with, making sure you're disciplined in order to stay. So it's I'm routine is my thing. You seem like you strike me like a person who's quite routined as well. Nothing, nothing.
If it's one thing, because of the shutdowns and all of that, and not being able to go out much and be around things, you know, put on a little extra weight and stuff like that. If that would be one thing, for the first time in a good while, like I used to do a lot of races and things like that, and half
Show up
marathons,
looking
and
like a zombie.
I used to run like various races,
20 minutes before
Las
the
Vegas
rehearsal.
half marathon, Pittsburgh half marathon, different places, going out to Cleveland and running there. But it used to be like a little hobby of mine. But with all of the races getting shut down and not having the people gather together, it's just I haven't been out and moving and things like that. The few extra pounds have come on, nothing crazy, but a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And I just haven't been up and moving. But hopped on the treadmill for the first time, and geez, probably since last year, just because I just wanted to get some movement going back with me. Hopefully, as the summer starts to come up, and hopefully if things start to get better, I'd like to participate a little bit more in that. So try to get into some training and stuff like that now. So
We should go
maybe
work out together. Maybe we should go.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
So if I had a resolution that I had to set my heart on, would just be getting out and trying to get a little bit more mobility with myself, get running a little bit more, jogging, and just a little bit more physical fitness going there. And then, by doing that, drop a couple of pounds a little bit,
Okay. Fair enough. Does anyone else, if you're watching this, curious, let us know if you have a New Year's resolution. Any plans, any aspirations? What's the plan for 2021? Sometimes you have a plan and it doesn't go according to the plan, but yeah, let us know in the chat. Boss is asking, do you guys any tips on learning bass clef? I've been trying a few months. Can't seem to understand. I've been playing 7 years on treble euphonium, so I guess I would be a good source in terms of experiential tips. I originally I was trained on treble clef, and bass clef was never something that was pushed. Let me rephrase that. The attention that was put on the bass clef for euphonium studio, where I was doing my undergrad, was so minimal, it's barely worth mentioning. So, and then you soon realize that actually the rest of the world reads bass clef when they play euphonium. So the problem is the euphonium, when you read treble clef, it's written in B flat. It's a B flat instrument, and you read it in B flat in wrong octave. So normally trumpets, you read the same part as a trumpet, except for trumpet is an octave higher instrument, but you read it as if it was written for trumpet, except for you read it an octave lower. So the hard part for you is because bass clef is actually written as it's supposed to be written, in C and in the correct octave. So first of all, if you have no knowledge of bass clef, start by counting. The best way I could learn, the way I do it normally, is I learned this method, and it's not necessary. It has downsides. I know people do that, but basically, if you know the bass clef, or it's called key of F because that little bubble where the bass clef has the bubble, it's your F. It's your concert F. So normally I see that when I read a bass clef as a G. So I transpose that plus add 2 sharps or take away 2 flats. That's how I've learned it. The downside, once you start seeing accidentals, it might get confusing. If you're not too familiar, I know Mike sees that as it's supposed to be. So normally he knows how to treat his B flat as an open, or treat that as a C on a treble clef. So there's a couple ways. I don't know whether, am I explaining that in a non-confusing way? Because now I'm starting to recall.
I think it's different for, while you gather your thoughts, I'll hop in here. But I think it's different for a lot of people. Like, what's their background in the clef that they're playing in, and transferring that to bass clef. But I was sort of opposite of you, but that idea hit me in high school. I was getting up into my high school years, and I realized I was going to go for music education. And I knew that whenever I got to college, and I also had some experiences where in high school I made it into some honors ensembles, and there was no treble clef music. I was a treble clef. I started out as a trumpeter whenever I was very young. And then for various reasons, mainly embouchure reasons, I ended up switching to the euphonium whenever I was in 9th grade. And it was an easy switch. I could just read the treble clef music, and that was fine. I could just play up a storm. But I realized whenever I was getting to the upper grades of high school and making into these honors ensembles, and they didn't have any treble clef parts that I had to read and then audition on to make it to other levels. That sort of, was a rude awakening for myself. I was like, I need to get to learn this as fast as possible. And then especially going to college and preparing to get into college, where I knew that most of the music that I would have to play would be in bass clef, and I wouldn't be given a treble clef part. Like, I wasn't given a treble clef part unless there was a part specifically that had to be in treble. Like if I was playing like a Granger piece on a baritone part and it was in treble clef there, and like that would, then I'd be like, okay, I could play this. But most of the other stuff was in bass clef. So I know that I needed to prepare. But my idea of what I sort of did was to just find the relationship between what you're doing with what you have known with the treble clef, and try to apply that to the bass clef. So whenever I would get a piece of bass clef music and I would look at that, I would need to know what that relationship was. So early on, it was beneficial for me to see what it was in bass clef and relate it and transfer to what that was in treble clef. Yeah. And then I would know exactly what I would need to do. So if I saw a B flat in bass clef, I knew that there was a step difference. So if I saw the B flat, I know that in treble clef that was a C, and then I knew that you would have to play that open, and then you'd be able to get comfortable with that. It's like seeing what it is, transferring to what you know it as, and then you're able to play it. But in the questioner's question, how could you get better at doing things like that? I mean, if I was instructing a person to begin to start to read bass clef, it'd be very simple with just getting familiar with the lines and spaces of the bass clef staff, and being able to tell, GBD, FA, ACEG within the confines of the staff, and then starting to branch off below and above with ledger lines by following the musical alphabet, just going from line to space or space to line, and following the alphabet either up higher or going down lower, and just start to get familiar with looking at the bass clef and knowing what the bass clef sound is. That's very important. That's one of like the key beginning steps. If you're looking at a piece of bass clef music and you see a pitch that's somewhere on the staff or above or below, what is that pitch in the bass clef staff? Once you get comfortable and you're able to know what those sounds are, you could easily relate it to what you were doing with the treble clef by just doing that step difference. And then what happened with me as I continued to do that, and over months, a couple of years, it just gets so comfortable to it gets so comfortable to you that you no longer need to do the transfer.
Conversion.
Like
Yeah.
when I play now and I read a piece of bass clef music, I don't think what is that in treble and what is
Yes.
like the valve combination for that. I've done it so much that I can just look at it and I know that that's what I need to do. And one last follow up with this too is there's so many resources online to get you comfortable too with getting familiar with the bass clef staff. There's music theory websites that can go through with lessons, and you can have exercises that you can train yourself to be able to learn what the bass clef is. And then it's just transferring that knowledge to your instrument.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar like speaking language as well. When in the beginning, when I moved out from Lithuania, my English was very good for a non-English speaking person, but I would think a lot in Lithuanian. Now, actually, like I never think in Lithuanian when I speak English. The problem is now becoming other way around. Now, some of the words I need to think in English before I start saying Lithuanian, which is starting to be a little bit weird. But this is what I was trying to explain. That step conversion, there's two ways of doing it. And I think your way, the way you learned it, is superior than mine, because I do not convert the note on the instrument. I convert the note on the piece of paper. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it requires me an additional step of adding two sharps or taking away two flats. And when you start seeing accidentals, which are not, for example, if you're playing a D, a concert D, but you're seeing that as an E and that note has a sharp, that starts making very low, because who would write an E? So those would be the problems. So I would recommend, but the way I've learned it is by looking at it and what the bass clef, if it says F, I see it as a G. And in the beginning, I assume the person is looking for a quick solution, because I saw he mentioned that he received a part. So the quick solution, it takes time. In order to be fluent at it, just like language, like anything, practice time. And the best way I always recommend, if you have time to memorize a text, don't just sit with a piece of paper memorizing. Just practice. And once in a while, take the sheet music away and see how much you memorize. That way you don't have to spend additional effort trying to memorize the piece of paper, the piece of music. The same thing with your clef transitions. But I assume if you're looking for a quick solution, just figure out 3 or 4 major arpeggio notes and start recognizing those. And after that, you'll be able to count on the piece that helped me a lot is I knew pantomime very well in the treble clef, and I needed to play pantomime. And just because I had the privilege of knowing that piece, I decided that when I'm going to be practicing, I'm going to be exclusively practicing from bass clef, just because I'm familiar with the music. So if I read the interval wrong, I can hear it's wrong. I know the piece, but it allowed me to look at the bass clef while knowing the melody. So if you know the piece, some other pieces, try practicing them in bass clef, or otherwise find a method book. The scale book that again I mentioned has an exercise particularly showing how to turn scales into clef transition exercise. So you would have the same scale written as a treble and below in bass clef, so you can see how those identically line up. The downside is we have a stupid system where treble clef is written in B flat and where a bass clef is written in C, which is very confusing. But no need to allow. Yeah, go ahead.
The only other thing I would add too, and some people might frown upon this, but I really don't care what people think. Sometimes sometimes I'm pretty practical with just how I do things, and if it works, do it. And if you can have like a little tip or a trick or a little cheat just sort of go ahead and do it to get by with what you need to do. But there would be some times whenever I was younger where I would get a piece of music, and just early on, I mean, obviously I don't do this now, but what helped me some too is I was trying to find the relationship between the two clefs. I would get a piece of bass clef music, and I would actually write the treble clef pitch like below it. So if I would see a B flat on the staff, below that sound, I would write a C in to know that that's what that sound was in treble clef. And just it allowed me to play it a lot quicker. And it also allowed me to build the connections between the two clefs. Now, like I said, that's not something that I do to this day. It's not something that I do all the time. But early on, it helped me to get more comfortable with that transfer, or that transition between the two. And then I just got more comfortable as I did different methods and different things to just know what that sound was. And I already knew. I didn't need to know the relation anymore because I just knew what it was at that point. But a lot of people would be like, you should never do that, or you know, you should just know what it is and just know that this is how you played and all that, and don't even think about any of that stuff. But I mean, just naturally, when people are learning, they want to go on what their prior knowledge is. It's easier for a person to go on prior knowledge to help them with something new and something different. It makes the learning process easier. And that's one of the examples of what I would do. So, I mean, if people criticize that, I mean, I don't really think they should. It's something that could help people if they need it.
I don't feel like anyone's going to criticize you.
They might.
Oh, well.
You never know.
Oh, well.
You never know.
That's a life.
Everyone always has that's the thing. Everyone always has like certain comments with things, and they think one thing might be right over another thing. I'm not that kind of person. I will take 50 different ways of doing something, and because as a teacher myself, I might try something 40 times with something different 40 times with a student, and then they might not be able to understand or to get that concept or to achieve that, but that 41st thing might make sense to that person, and it might be the thing that gets that student to improve. So I'm a huge fan of trying as many things as possible, or having what we call the bag of tricks. Having the tricks up our sleeve, all those different things. We could say the same concept 30 different ways, but it's good to have those 30 different ways and all those extra things.
Good news for you, if you're fluent in treble clef, you'll find that learning tenor clef is a piece of cake. At least that's the upside. The downside, you barely will ever use tenor clef, but you'll find it a piece of cake. Pedro is saying salute Brazil. Hello,
Brazil. I forgot to say hi to Brazil. I didn't know any Brazilians were on here yet. I forgot. I missed you, Brazilian folks. Yeah, I haven't been communicating with you for a few months. Yeah. I hope the weather is good down there. Isn't it summer down there?
It's like Florida, I would guess.
Enjoy the summer down there.
Weather is not a problem. Anyone ever stop playing for a long period of time? Adam is asking. I stopped for a year to finish my final year in university and did not notice a drastic drop in my standard of playing. Well, good. Congratulations. You're a one lucky person. I didn't realize that said did not. I thought he said when I originally read it, noticed. And I was about to tell a story what happened a couple weeks ago when I took. I didn't take any days off, but for 3 days, I didn't have to properly go through all the routines, etc. And how after 3 days it wasn't the same. But I guess everyone's a little bit different. So.
I mean, with myself, if I could hop in here, sorry to cut you off, but I haven't talked to these people in months, and I'm rare.
You're like unleashing.
Like, Matonizz, be quiet. I'm talking. I have a perfect example of this. It's similar to what the person just mentioned, but but I did notice some issues with myself. I had two stints with the brass band that we play in. You know, I played for about 5 going on 6 years whenever I was in college, and then just a little bit out of college that I played with the group. And then I had about 8 years or more where I didn't play with the brass band. I just played in some community ensembles and things like that. So not at that, you know, that high of that serious of a level that what the brass band was. But whenever I came back the second time, you know, I didn't. It's not that I took off 8 years of playing. I mean, I still played, but the level of my playing was nowhere near what the level of my playing was whenever I was, you know, in college and playing with the brass band every month and all of that stuff. But whenever I got back with the brass band, I could just notice like clear things that were an issue. But like I could still play, you know, I still did a decent job, but different aspects of my playing, like my facility with my fingers, my advanced tonguings that I would need to use that I didn't necessarily work so much on in those community groups. You know, I felt like I backtracked quite a bit, and then it took me months and months of getting back into that routine to where I felt like I've improved with some of those. But I know with certain things, it's me back whenever I was, you know, 18, 19, 20, and then now I'm in my later 30s, you know, back in that first stretch of time, you know, certain things about my playing were a lot better. But even now, as age is coming in, and I took that big amount of time off, you know, I could I didn't feel the same as before.
Yeah, for me, it's probably the key things is look, you're not gonna lose musicianship skills that quickly. Like these things are like riding a bicycle. You're just not gonna lose it like that. Physicality and coordination, two things that you'll lose pretty quickly. Coordination, you'll get back pretty quickly. Physicality, here's the problem. Like you mentioned, when we're talking about our physicality, we're talking a lot of facial muscles and we're talking breathing facilities, okay? And those decline with years. So one thing I've been obsessive about is making sure I keep on seeing these stories over and over and over again. 40 years of age, 50 years of age, players start developing a lot of physical issues. You know what person who maintained, name me if off the top of your head, one person who maintained the quality of playing throughout years and years. Name me one person off the top of your head. Just curious whether we're on the same page.
Is this a trick question? Should I just say
No.
Matonizz? Should I say
No, I'm not.
Matonizz?
No. Name one person you know that maintained extremely well throughout the years.
Is this a person that
You know,
we
clearly.
we are in contact with?
Yeah, of
and
course.
Like
Of course.
in the brass band, a brass band person?
Yeah.
The one person that jumps to my mind that I am just in awe of and in amazement of what this player could do would be Jeff on the soprano trumpet.
I know.
That
I knew you were gonna say that. What person I had in mind is even a more senior gentleman, conductor, James Gourlay.
Oh, hey, James too. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we don't necessarily play along with him, but whenever he does play, it's amazing what he can do. It's
And
it's incredible.
yeah, and you know what his thing was. No matter if he doesn't even have time, if he's busy with all the administration work or whatever, he grabs his tuba. You would hear him spend 30 minutes every single time, breathing, his basics, all the stuff, consistency. If you maintain the physicality, once it degrades, you can catch up. You can recover pretty fast when you're 20 and maybe when you're 30, and it starts becoming harder and harder. And I know, like, I'm like monk with my practice. I don't take days off. The last time I took a stretch of time, as long as like 3, 4, 5 days, was when I was probably 13 or 14. This is more than a decade ago. So I practice every single time. It doesn't matter. I practice. So, but one thing I've noticed is the people who consistently stay with their fundamentals, which is breathing. You don't have to spend hours and hours breathing, but fundamentals like strength and conditioning things like buzzing, long tones, whatever you may choose to do, the longevity impact. And these are a little bit anecdotal. I don't have any data per se, but from my personal experience, the people that I found have great longevity would be people who sustain the basics. And also, look, I play multiple instruments, and the physicality that there's technique and physicality. So playing high brass and playing low brass, I always say that technique is very similar. Once you learn the correct mechanics, you can go between each instrument, and you might not be as great on the other instrument, but you're still going to be able to produce a sound to somewhat a quality standard. Now physicality starts changing quite a bit once you go from high brass to low brass. So for example, tuba, the physicality would be in the sense that you need a tremendous amount of air. Once that goes, you're in big problem, because the tuba, you need to, if you're the dynamics and making sure you sustain all the bass lines, it requires tremendous amount of air, and there's standards to your phrasing. I know like people are allowed to breathe more when there's four people in the section, but if you look at the symphony orchestras, how many tuba players do they have? One. And that player has to sustain certain standards. So you might not be playing all the tricky high notes on the tuba, but it's different set of physicalities. Whereas the trumpet player, you might not be using the quantities of air, but there's a tremendous difference in the physicality required in your embouchure muscles and your facial muscles. It's just not if you don't believe me, just if you have an access, try playing on a trumpet, try playing on euphonium, and then try and playing on tuba, and you'll notice that physicality of producing sound is just requires so much more facial muscle strength to make a sound pitch that high on a trumpet. So these would be the things that would go. So just stay with your fundamentals no matter what. I always say 30 minutes a day. If you're running out of time, everyone can find 30 minutes a day. Like 99.9% of people can find 30 minutes a day. Squeeze in some breathing exercises, squeeze in some free buzzing. That's my number one exercise. Long tones, whatever you can squeeze in, you'll be able to do fine. That being said, two people. Anything else you want to mention on this, or?
No, I think that's good. Move it on.
A few people asked about recording equipment, and that's something quite a few people asked about. So let's elaborate a little bit. And one of the questions is, what recording equipment do I recommend for trumpets? Coming from J-Love. And another question was same stuff, but that I assume that would come from a euphonium player. Might be wrong assumption, Isaac. So here's the deal. Normally, a recording trumpet is not necessarily that hard. It depends what context you're recording and what you're trying to accomplish. So for those who are familiar with my channel, you know exactly what kind of recordings we do. So capturing natural sound of trumpet is not very hard. And a lot of microphones would do a good job without necessarily having much complexities to the setup of them. It's fairly easy. Most microphones, dynamic and cardioid, catch the frequencies of a trumpet extremely well. So you get a very accurate replica of the tone. Now the problem with what you need to pay attention to is if you're trying to get rid of the room noise, and that's we personally always use the large diaphragm cardioid microphone. So it's a very directional microphone. Now catches a very narrow direction, which is basically where your bell is pointing more or less, and it helps to isolate a lot of room noises. So these are the microphones that we're using today, me and Mike. Now there are a lot of brands, and it depends on how much money you're willing to invest. But what I recommend most people, and is what Mike has as well, is the 80-20-20 microphone. It requires an audio interface, but it allows you not only for voice, but that's the microphone that Mike uses to record his euphonium, and that does a good job. The problem, and that works very well on trumpets. The problem with trumpet is when you start putting, if you want to multi-track with a trumpet, you're going to have some phasing problems. And I'm not going to elaborate too much on that, but that would be the downside for the trumpets, where you might want to play around with dynamic microphone like Shure SM57. That would be one of the options. It might not isolate the room noise as well, but it will help a little bit with phasing, or if you have money, a little bit more money to play around, ribbon microphones would be a good idea. For euphoniums, cardio microphones are awesome, except for it's not going to represent your sound very accurately. You'll catch a lot of those high-pitched frequencies. Does not mean that it does not catch your main frequencies, which are within that 300 to 500 range. That's what makes the euphonium sound round and dark and traditional. That's what we're used to, that very bassy sounding tone within a higher octave than a tuba would be. But it will be hard to capture that rich tone by one microphone. So smaller diaphragm microphone would be a good idea, putting 2 microphones, or you will have to play around in post-production. I personally prefer playing around with the tone in post-production as little as possible, but sometimes it's necessary if people who are less familiar with where they're placing the microphone. But the closer you're going to be placing the microphone to your bell, the less room noise you'll get, but the brighter the sound will get, and you get a little bit more airiness and valve noise the further you'll go, vice versa. But basically what I would recommend, if there's one microphone every studio should have, just one microphone, it will be a large diaphragm cardio microphone. That's what we're using. That's what I use mostly for my recording, although sometimes I use a mixture of my microphones, and that's what all of the people, except for a trombone player that we've been recording, use. Drew, Mike, everyone. So 80-20-20 would give you more than enough room to begin with, and I did a lot of recordings with that microphone. But it would vary on what kind of budget you would be playing around. You'll need an audio interface. I would recommend Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett Solo. That will give you 2 inputs, and you'll be able to record your microphone with good quality audio. I don't know. Mike, you wanna elaborate?
No, I mean you're more so into all this stuff than I am. Like, just the only moment that I started to get into the recording process was through you and the equipment that you helped me get set up with, and your instruction on how I should do things. I mean, it was a learning process that from the recordings that I first started out with to what I've been sending you recently. It's just, things that you need to just learn and mess around with as you go along, just to get better results. And thankfully in your case, I didn't have to figure that all out on my own. You were like, make sure you do this, make sure you keep this in mind. So it's something that was not familiar to me.
Yeah, but before, I'm gonna read a couple more questions, and we're gonna wrap this up soon. But we're gonna do our dining with Ding segment.
Oh,
just not now.
No,
not now.
Starving. What?
Not now. Not now. We're gonna read. Not now. Come on, just for a second. We're gonna read a couple more questions, but just a quick reminder: we're gonna be giving out one of those scale books we talked about. Just a quick reminder of the rules. Mike gets hungry. He has this craving for snacks per se, and we've got a little snack. Whoever guesses it's right, guesses it correctly gets a free copy of the book. You're gonna get one try just before you start naming all the foods in the chat. Everyone gets one try. Mike is gonna give hints. If you don't know or don't have a good idea, don't just start bombarding the chat. You get one try, maybe 2 tries. We'll see. 2 more questions, then we're going to go dining to Ding. Oliver is asking, he's going to have to take 2 years off because he's going on a mission for his church, and he won't be able to play, and he's wondering whether he'll be able to retain his skills. Free buzzing, breathing exercises. Don't need instrument, carry mouthpiece. That's what I would suggest. And if you have an opportunity, carry one trumpet mouthpiece, carry one euphonium mouthpiece, carry one tuba mouthpiece. You won't be able to practice very specifics and get accustomed to the centering of the instrument, but you'll be able to develop another skill by swapping around those mouthpieces. You'll be able to develop a lot of control of the mechanics, so the mechanics of how you create sound, because even though the mouthpieces are different, that base conception, how you close your lips and how you control your sound, is the same. It's just it'll make you adjust and adapt and learn how to control those abilities in a higher extent. So that'll be if you did that for 2 years, you might find out that whenever you grab an instrument, you'll be able within a couple of weeks of time to pass the limits of where you were plateauing before that, because you'll literally spend 2 years of correcting the fundamentals, which basically says how high you can build up on those skills. That would be my suggestion. Breathing, free buzzing, mouthpieces, if possible, get one of a kind, easy to carry. Mike.
Yeah, just to mention what you said, what comes to my mind is just that the instrument is the tool that you are using, and you don't necessarily need the tool to maintain the skills that you need to operate that tool. So you mentioned about buzzing in your breathing exercises. Those are so critical. Just think of all the things that don't apply strictly to that instrument that you need to have in place as a musician to be able to play that instrument. So, I mean, would it be great to have an instrument and to play on and to practice on? Yes, but you don't need the instrument all the time. You don't need the instrument for that time. If your breathing is in check and you're continuing to work on those types of techniques, your buzzing is still being maintained with your lip flexibility and the muscles of your face, and you're still working and activating those physical aspects of you, then you're going to be able to pick up that tool a little bit easier than it would be to not do that at all and not do a single thing for 2 years.
Yes.
You're still working on those building blocks of what being a musician is all about. The instrument is just the tool that you use. Like, to be able to, hammer in something with a hammer, you need certain things with your body to be there. You need the strength to pick up the hammer, and you need to be able to grasp and have that control and that dexterity with your limbs and your fingers and all of that. And then you could use that tool. I see it very similar in that way.
Yeah, and look, this is what I meant by saying coordination comes back pretty quickly. So like you said, you'll be able to notice, for example, just the way I always describe the mechanics of the sound when I create a buzz is that it starts with inhale. You need air for your lips to vibrate. So it's air in, air out, lips close, tension applies. That's my perfect mechanic. So normally you don't look as buzzing at a buzzing like a 4-step movement or a 5-step, just like you wouldn't look at pitching the baseball as a 10-step process. But good pitchers have very good mechanics. So they would load up on their hip, they would retract their shoulder, they would start by generating power from their rear foot, then it's a shoulder, then they extend their arm, and lastly they throw the fingers. If you throw the ball like that, you threw the ball, but those are faulty mechanics. They are not going to give you power control. Same thing with producing sound. The mechanics are you breathe in, that's a slow motion. Ideally, you need that happening in a split of a second, particularly on the exhale. Because otherwise, if the air comes out first, you want to air. You never want lips closing before your air comes out. This is the area you're going to get a critical error like. You never want that. So basically that's what I meant by coordination. But in order to sustain that, you need physicality. Work on that. You'll be able to not only recover very quickly, but there's a good likelihood you might be able to go through the beyond the plateaus that you had. Let's read a few more questions, and we'll go to Dining with Ding. Maxwell.
I see Maxwell there. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was about
yeah.
to say,
Give a
I see
shout out.
Maxwell. I haven't been in a stream in a long time
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I've been hibernating like a bear.
Yeah, but we just talked with me and Mike talked a little bit, and please let us know what you think as well about this. We talked a little bit before we started the stream. A big reason why we stopped this is it was a very busy schedule, and this is the way I'm wired in my head, and the way I have been trained as a euphonium player. You practice for hours and hours and polish something, and then you go to stage, and when more or less you're happy with the everything about the playing process, and that's how I normally approach everything. That's why I spend so much time on making sure that the videos look well and all that, because it matters. I want everything to look polished, and in order for these live streams to work, the logistics when you're incapable of meeting are very hard. And I was like, I want to introduce that segment once I'm ready with all the streaming decks and everything. We'll reintroduce the streams, and it just ends up that I'm too busy to reestablish this. So we're probably going to start reintroducing these streams. I might not do anything too fancy. I would assume people would appreciate more that we just give out the content and communicate and then talk with everyone. And I think that would do a bit more of a favor and justice to everyone who's watching us, rather than trying to look very fancy, etc., and not giving out any content at all. So it's a little bit on my end, and also mine has been busy. But yeah, I'm hoping we can get back to these on more regular basis. I'm enjoying this, and it gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit with you. That being said, I'm not gonna keep your cravings suppressed anymore. Let's
so hungry.
So hungry. Let's see if this works. Okay. Alrighty, hints. Ellen, just before you go, Ellen, yes, do send the video, funny videos. I want to bring that in. If anyone has any funny memes, if you have any funny memes that you'd like to make off me or Mike, no?
You all of you are going to fail. There is nothing that could make me laugh.
Yeah. It's okay.
Not a single thing.
It's okay. I'll get one of us laughing. At least that'll be funny. If you want to make memes out of us, there's plenty of content. Do make it. Please send it to us. If you have funny videos, I know some of you sent it. We tried using that. If I get enough segments, I'll make it worth a stream where we're gonna show it. I just need enough people to submit that. That being said, Ellen, yes, please do send funny videos, as many as possible. Memes very welcome as well. Mike, you're a hungry person, one hungry individual.
So I always dine, for those of you that are new. I always have a treat. I try not to repeat them. So if you're a constant stream watcher, then you know it's not going to be one of those treats that I've had in the past.
Is it watermelon?
So I know no. That's actually something good. This is either a type of candy or it's a baked good. It's either one or the other.
How about I give a hint? When you showed the package, I had no clue what that was. So I've never tried it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's because I'm sure if you're in the United States, you'll probably be familiar with this.
Yeah, but, go ahead. Give a little bit more info.
One hint. I'll give one hint first. It's a baked good. That's the first thing, just to make it a little bit easier. And then another hint for the baked good is thin and crunchy.
Thin and crunchy. Okay, we're gonna wait around 20 seconds. Again, don't start blasting all of the answers, because everyone starts giving just listing all the food. Just wait up until you think you have enough information so you can guess accurately, and whoever guesses it accurately, I'll give you my email later on, and I'll send you the copy of my skill curriculum. All right, in the meantime, Maxwell is saying, no worries, just happy to be back and see you guys again. Happy to be back as well. Hopefully,
nice to see you too.
Yeah. Do you recommend learning cannoli? You see, I don't even know what
I
that
can't
is.
even read. It's
C
so
O
small.
C O N O L E. Chocolate chip cookies have been here for.
Cannoli. No, it's not. It's not cannoli.
What
It's
is a
not cannoli.
cannoli?
Cannoli is like an Italian type of like baked good. It has like a cream center and stuff like that in there. If my memory serves me right.
Maxwell is asking. I think I have asked this before, but what is your all-time favorite piece to play? Ooh. That's now that's actually a hard question. But one we'll have to name one. Before we name that, give a couple more
I
hints.
have one.
Couple
It's
more
hard to
hints.
pick a favorite.
Yeah,
But okay, couple more hints. Couple more hints. I could give one hint out right now, and the it'll be rolling in here. I'll just give this hint. It might make it a little bit easier. Sheila G's.
Okay. Favorite piece. I have no clue what that means, but hey.
Sheila G's.
My favorite. Adam is actually saying Harlequin. I was about to say that Harlequin used to be a very it has these corny moments a little bit, but the melody is quite special to me. It's I like that a lot. It used to be my favorite piece for a long time to play. One thing, another piece. If I had to say my favorite piece is that for some reason resonates very well with me. Transylvanian Lullaby. I love that piece. I love
I
it.
wonder why.
I wonder why. But
you could probably throw a stone and it would hit Transylvania from Lithuania.
yeah, but it's for me it's such a beautiful. It works so well on euphonium, and it's a beautiful piece. And Mike, peace. Stop reading. I'll read the comments for you.
I was I was looking. Piece. Hey, I don't know if he wanted like a band piece
Favorite
or
piece
like
to
a
play.
solo
Just
piece.
come on, name a piece. Favorite piece to play.
I'm gonna say it's hard to choose. It's like students. I don't have any favorite students. I appreciate something about all of them.
Mike,
But
name one favorit piece, and you're gonna stick with that for the rest of your life. You're committing right now.
Okay,
Don't back out.
The one piece that really responds to me that I just love. It's actually a wind band piece, and it is it's the Granger's Irish tune from County Derry with the euphonium piece there. That's probably hands down one of the most beautiful pieces, and not only that, just the role of the euphonium in that piece is just tremendous. So Irish tune from County Derry, the Granger arrangement.
Fair enough. Oatmeal cream pie.
All that people have to do is type in Sheila G's G''S into a search engine, and that will be the first thing that comes up. It was the best hint in the world.
Drew popped up and he says "Baby Shark." It's funny. We'll get Drew. We'll get Drew. Second Suite by Maxwell. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm actually a First Suite fan. I like the First Suite more than the Second Suite. I don't like the second and the third movement in the Second Suite.
I was about to say. I thought you were about to say I don't like the euphonium. So. I was like,
the second movement in the Second Suite is a song without words. I'll love my love. If the song didn't have words, then it wouldn't be called I'll love my love. It's just, it tricks you. The Second Suite tricks you. I don't like that.
Okay. Yeah, we need to get Drew on one of these streams. I'll get Drew.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun.
Okay. Any more hints? Hint it again. Come on.
Man, this must be too tough for the world to get.
I didn't know what that is.
Oh, if I give more hints, it'll. Okay. Some of these could be chocolate. Probably particularly like.
Is it a brownie brittle?
Who got that? Yes, brownie. It is. Thank you, brownie brittle. Yes, finally I can eat now.
What the heck is a brownie brittle?
Oh, it's delicious. I love brownies. Brownies are my favorite baked good. But next to that, this brownie brittle is amazing. It's almost like a peanut brittle, which is like thin and it's harder, but it's brownies instead. So it's like thin and crispy. This is the lemon version. I love lemon. I love lemon anything.
Ooh,
Brownie
Shostakovich second waltz.
brittle.
That's a nice
Oh,
piece. I'm ignoring your brownie brittle. All right, fair enough. Boss, email me at euphonium.legends@gmail.com with a subject line, dining with Ding. I need the subject line. I've been receiving like I'm almost 5,000 emails behind at this point throughout my 3 different emails. If you could do me a favor, headline, subject line, dining with Ding, I'll answer it ASAP, and I'll send you a copy of the scale curriculum. Congratulations, brownie brittle. Have no clue what that is, but keep some for me. Once I come visit, I'll definitely give that a try. Okay, so any closing lines, any last words? We're gonna wrap this up. We originally planned to keep this to around 45 minutes. Is there a good time? Let us know in the chat while we're closing this. If there's a good time and the good day for these live streams. I'm always being a little bit confused. What's a good time for everyone? And also, do us a favor. Let me know for those who've been following the channel for a while. What kind of arrangements, compositions you'd like to see? We've been spending a lot of time producing and a lot of effort producing a lot of good quality arrangements and compositions. I'm just curious what kind of styles, what kind of pieces you'd like us to produce. Let us know as much as possible. Your feedback would be very, very much appreciated. Also, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Any last words before we wrap this up? I'm Irish, so preferably 12 hours ago. That's hilarious. But yeah, look forward to 2021. I hope it's going to be... Look, I don't think it would be very shocking to say that 2020 sucked. I don't think it would be... but at the same time, I'm not going to be... look, thing that is worrying me, up until last year, you would rarely see me complain. And I start complaining a little bit, and you're normally the first person who's complaining. You never complain up until today. I'm not gonna call that complain, but you can feel when somebody needs to just pour it out. So hopefully, that's normally an indicator that 2020 was not the easiest year. And
yeah, I mean, I could take a lot of beating with different things, but
yeah.
you know, when my whole entire family is getting affected in horrible ways, it's sometimes it's tough to handle.
Yeah, but well, I'm hoping, like, first of all, normally your family members are watching this. I know your mom is always watching. She's probably not watching this now, but I hope she gets better soon. It's not fun. And especially again, some people know, but I'm quite close to your family as well. Your family, your mom has been literally like sorting our holidays for last, I don't know how many years, like Thanksgiving. I'm not clearly, most people know I'm not from around here, so the American holidays like Thanksgiving and etc. Your mom has been very kind to always invite me and Birute, so I'm very familiar with her brothers and your brothers as well. So that's that came a little bit as a surprise. I'm glad she's, from what I understand, she's not doing too poorly. Hope your brother gets better soon, but hopefully as many of you as possible manage to stay well. We're gonna try and just go full steam ahead. Adapt is the right word. There's gonna have to be some adaptations, so I'm hoping the live concerts will come back. I know we're doing recording sessions this month and next month. I'm hoping live recordings, live playing concerts will come back this year. that being said, there's a good chance we might be very limited. What I'm gonna try and do in this channel is produce as much. I know it's not the same as recording the live stuff. You can joke around. We had a bunch of funny videos, and look, it can always be worse, but it seems like every generation have these crazy moments. I speak with my parents that had all kind of post-war type of experience and etc. I'm pretty sure we're gonna be able to figure this out. This year, I'm going full steam ahead. Nothing changes. We're gonna try and produce except for the fact that we might be a little bit limited with live stuff. But I'm hoping you've been enjoying the content. I'm gonna try and stay, do my best to make sure we stay on schedule. That's the hardest thing. It's not recording. It's being on schedule, because being limited with time, that's a little bit stressful. But at the same time, it kicks my butt a little bit. So definitely getting back to these streams. We're gonna get Mike involved, hopefully back in producing more educational content, etc. So thanks to everyone who's been following us closely last year, and we're not gonna slow down with the content in 2021, whether it's gonna be live performances or whether we're limited. That's the plan. I'm sticking with it. We'll see how that goes. So anything else, Mike, or we're okay? So thanks everyone who watched today, who joined the live stream. This will be available for you to rewatch later on, uploaded on the channel. So make sure to give a like, thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Otherwise, have a good rest of the evening, or whatever time zone you're at, and we'll see you with more live streams very, very soon. So have a good one, friends. Take care.